keeps us connected to Swami's values, Swami's teachings, but also helps us to see it in a more contemporary, modern way. So that's about me. And today I'm joined by the beautiful Sister Jhananiee.
Hello, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, I'm from Canada. I used to live in Toronto. I currently live in London, which is about 2 hours south. And I am the Deputy Zonal Young Adult Coordinator for Zone 1. And regarding this topic, in terms of this concept, it's fair. I had heard about it here and there, but I think I've always been subconsciously practicing it, or it's been a part of my life. And going through this and preparing for this session has really shown me how I've evolved personally with the different energies as we'll go through. But it was great to work with Sister Darshana and Brother Sriram to put this together.
Thank you, Jhananiee. Now, before we start, we'd like to start with a short prayer. Jhananiee, would you lead us through just a quick prayer before we begin?
Thank you, Swami, for bringing us together today to carry out your messages, to grow together, and to become better human beings by understanding ourselves in greater detail. We hope that this session is as enlightening for you, for all of us today, as it has been for us preparing. And we hope that you guide us and show us the path forward.
Thank you so much, Jhananiee. I'm going to share my screen and we are going to get right started. So before we get started, maybe we'll just take a moment to ask, how is everybody doing after a long work day? You can put your comments in the chat. Jhananiee and Brother Sriram is also here, and he'll also take a look at the comments. So we'd love to hear from you. How are you guys doing? If you are answering us, thank you so much. We'd love to keep hearing from you. And we also want to start this with a little caveat that this session, 4 Aspects of Human Nature, is going to be run by Sister Jhananiee and myself. We will do our best to bring the same energy and love and engagement that they do in all of their sessions, right? So let's get started, everybody. Now, as we first start, let's just recap some of the past sessions that we've done. It started with eating right, and then there was episode 2, Small Steps, Big Changes, and episode 3, Our Body is a Temple. So these were the 3 sessions focused on the body aspect. And we've also completed Silencing the Mind and Navigating Relationships, both to do with the mind. And today's session is the 3rd mind session. Now, as we begin, here's a quote for us to just reflect on, keep behind in our minds. Swami says that the proper study of mankind is man. Now, this is a really loaded question and a quote, because you can see that, human beings are very complex. We have a lot of different emotions and personalities, and our energies are also different. We are multidimensional. So it's not as easy as just saying one person is A and another person is B. Today, what we're going to do is we are going to explore all these facets and try and make sense of it, right? And understand ourselves a little better. So do keep in mind that this is an introduction to the 4 aspects of nature. You can dive deeper into this on your own, and we'll give you some resources at the end. So let's start by talking about ourselves. We are human. And just like all living creatures, we also behave in accordance with our nature as human beings. Now, our nature, our behaviors are rooted in our thoughts and our tendencies that usually dominate our space. Now, just think about your own life and how we have an environment or a reality that is shaped by the things that we think about, the thoughts that we have, and also all our tendencies. Now, what happens with all of this is it eventually becomes something called subconscious programming. What that means is it just starts to become like a habit, right? We keep thinking about the same things. We do things in a specific way. We have very specific thoughts about stuff. We have specific likes and dislikes, things like that. And these are all programmed daily through our 5 senses. And the more these patterns are repeated, the stronger they become. Now, these things are also influenced by events in previous lifetimes, and that's just a little tidbit for you to know. We will not be going into previous lifetimes in this session. So a programming that we all have as human beings, we all have 4 different energies, right? That's in accordance with this concept of the 4 aspects of human nature. The 4 energies are the emotional, physical body, the intellectual, and the discriminating body. Now, each of these evolves as we do, and they develop their own patterns. As humans, we usually use one of this more than others, and this is the dominant aspect of the energy within us, and it becomes our primary human identity. Now, our ego image, or how we see ourselves, usually comes from this energy type as well. And then it is focused by the secondary, tertiary, and quaternary types of energies. So we have all of these different energy types within us. I want to take you through a very simple concept of this human nature. Now, and this concept is going to be very important for us as we go along. You can see here that we've written down that the clove basically means see love, conscious love. Now, why are we talking about the clove in the first place? When Sister Rita Bruce wrote the book Love of Conscience, which is where this topic of 4 aspects of human nature is from, she had presented the manuscript to Swami. And during that time, she'd asked Swami for some sort of a sign, that to give a blessing, and also like, what do I call this? How do I package this in the right way, these human natures? And in this process, when she got the manuscript back, there was a little clove that had fallen onto the manuscript. Sriram, would you like to help us to tell this story?
So, yeah, I think, interestingly, when this clove had fallen on the manuscript, Sister Rita Bruce began to wonder on what did it mean? Why is this clove on, on the manuscript? And, and she had this most wonderful dream wherein Swami came and started to elucidate what is mentioned on this slide. He said that, in the dream, Swami elucidated that the clove is symbolic, of the root that is the source of all divine energy, and it has the 4 prongs that Darshana just mentioned, right? It has the prongs for the 4 energies that we're going to explore today. The world, the ball in the middle that you see in the picture is the globe or the world. And the world is sitting balanced by these 4 prongs or energies which stem from the stem, literally, which come out or spring forth from the stem, which is divinity. So what are these 4 energies? How do they spring from divinity? How does it get manifested or represented in us? All of these fascinating aspects, these 2 amazing women are going to help us explore. Sairam, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Sriram. So that's just to give you a bit of an understanding of where this is coming from. Now you'll see why the clove actually makes sense. The energies are mapped as a clove. So the 4 corners that you see on the screen are essentially where the energy types are mapped. And the stem, like Sriram said, is the divine consciousness, which holds everything together. And the globe, the little circle, is in the middle. So our subconscious programming can loosely be categorized into these 4 different energies. The important thing to understand is it is all from the same source. It's all from one divine source, right? And all of these energies are interdependent and they are equally important. So there is no one is more better, like one is better than the other in this. We cannot operate unless all of these energies within us work together. Nothing is higher, nothing is lower. There is nothing that is of greater energy. There is nothing that is of lesser energy. So if you recall, we have one dominant energy within us, and then we also have the secondary the tertiary, and the quaternary energy types. So they all exist inside us. It's just that one may be something that we have worked a lot and connected a lot with, and then that becomes the way we express ourselves. The others are not so expressed yet, right? So what we want to see now is, you can see that there is an emotional and physical, intellectual, and discriminating. You'll also notice that under each of it, there's like something that says pure outer, inner outer, pure inner, and outer inner. I'm just going to share what these mean so that you have a bit of context. Yeah. So if you see, the discriminating and the emotional are both outer world focus, which means that anyone who identifies with this particular energy type, their focus is probably going to be more outward, right? So in things that they see, things that they hear and feel, and things like that. With the physical and the intellectual, it is more inner. So it's inner world focus. Now, a pure outer energy essentially means that 100% of that energy will be expressed as an emotional aspect. When we see the outer inner energy, 25% is focused on inner and 75% is focused on the outer. So they're still mostly outer, but they still have like a little bit, 25% of an inner. Similarly, with the intellectual and physical energies, it's the same thing. Intellectual is 100% pure inner, and the physical has a 75% inner and a 25% outer. So when we're looking at this as a whole right now, it's really important to also remember, it doesn't mean that if someone is an intellectual, energy-based person, that they are super smart and they're the only ones who are like super smart. Intellectual here refers to the way that they look at the world, that the way that they connect and communicate and receive from the world. And that's the same with the other three energy aspects. Now, I'm going to ask Sister Sai Datta to share with you a PDF copy. So you can have this for reference at the end of this session. Okay. If you have notes, I would encourage you to take your own notes, because we always learn when we are writing. So each of us has a primary energy type. We have a secondary energy type, and that's usually the energy that is to the left of this image, right? So if I am a pure emotional, if that is my primary, my secondary would be physical. My tertiary would be discriminating, and the one that I least connect to, or something that I am like completely not so in tune with, would be intellectual. Okay. So before we move into all the energy types that Jhananiee will take over from me first, are there any questions? I can't see any questions, so we shall proceed.
Just one
Now-
aspect, Darshana.
Yes.
Very interestingly in this, that I forgot to mention when you asked me to relate what Rita Bruce had mentioned. And it's very interesting. The reason why clove was put on the manuscript, she later realized, was because, look at the word clove, see love.
Yes.
And it's
conscious
all
love.
about becoming conscious of love, which manifests as all these different energies that we interact within ourselves and in others. So that's the essence. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So you can see that we've written here as well that the very meaning of the word clove is see love or conscious love. And now we're going to go into the energy types. So this is going to get really interesting. We really encourage you to think about this from your perspective. Look at yourself first. It'll be very easy to identify these things in other people, but try as hard as you can to also think about your own tendencies, your own behaviors, and your own sort of subconscious programming. Over to you, Jhananiee.
Thank you, Sister Darshana. So as mentioned, each one of us uses one of the four energies more than the other. And we're going to go through each of the four energy types and try to break it down as best as possible to give you a sense of what aspects these energy types typically show, what are their or how they communicate, what sense they're most related to, and the value that they most resemble. So the first one we're going to go through is the emotional energy type. And this one is responsible for motivating the motivation for how we perform our actions, and is usually driven by our emotions. So you may think emotional is more centered on the emotional part, but it's actually that drives the actions that we carry out. So this individual energy type likes to take action, and they derive great satisfaction from working. They usually focus on improving or perfecting their skills, and they tend to think that the performance of their action is most important. Their self-esteem usually depends on how well they perform the task, and they are more internally motivated to complete the goals as quickly and as efficiently, and are interested in finishing the work as perfectly as possible. Now, with this energy type, they may not spend time thinking things through. Instead, they use instinct to help perform under certain circumstances. For example, they will assess the situation and they might take action right away. And the emotional energy type usually speaks directly and with feeling, and they tend to like to have their feelings acknowledged and their performance recognized. The typical question that an emotional energy type would ask is, when and where can I take this action? So they're constantly assessing the situation and deciding how to perform or where to take action. If someone disagrees with them or confronts them, they first feel rejected and cannot defend themselves with logic because their emotions are getting in the way. They may tend to respond emotionally to the experiences in life, and they may not react in the way that they had initially intended. So they might actually respond by, crying, remaining silent, or walking away or yelling. But once they've had a chance to calm down and evaluate the situation, they may tend to regret or reevaluate how they would have responded in those situations. Emotional energy types speak directly, so they are focused on job performance and have no reservation about saying what they think. That being said, they are also aware of their public image, and how they look to others is important to them. So there's usually verbal communication is more guarded, and they choose to speak and express their feelings more openly in the privacy of their homes. But are usually more conscious of the way that they carry themselves in the outer world or in larger settings. The primary sense for this energy type is vision. So what they see plays a big role in how they respond or react. And the human value associated with the emotional energy type is peace. Since emotional energy is responsible for taking action and motivating us to act, the next most important energy to the emotional energy type, as Sister Darshana mentioned, is the physical energy type. And third would be discriminatory, and fourth is intellect. The fourth is the intellectual energy type, so the least that they would connect with. So we have a couple of scenarios to run through, and we'll discuss the ways in which each energy type would respond or react in these situations. So the first scenario is Padma is planning a workshop. I believe a lot of you are in the same situation currently, and is looking for volunteers to help with the planning and execution of the weekend to ensure a smooth and successful event. She sends an email to her network for help. So if you were an emotional energy type, the ways in which you may respond are you may be one of the first people to reply to the email, expressing great enthusiasm on the idea, and already have a few ideas in mind in how to help out. In addition to those, you may also take additional steps or help here and there throughout the planning, but it may be more of a behind the scenes role. So you'll help with a lot of the organizational aspect, but you may not be upfront in the more of a presentation role. Or you may create subgroups and help. So again, like it's a lot of the taking action, helping to make sure that everything goes smoothly, and taking and assigning tasks or short and long-term goals for the team to address. So I want to ask all of you, in addition to these, can you think of any other ways in which an emotional energy type might respond to this situation or throughout the process of planning a workshop? You can feel free to share in the chat, or we can share the responses. All right, so we have a response from using personal experience to draw ideas. Yeah, a lot of the times you'll probably reflect on previous workshops or previous ideas that have been used and use those to help guide the future workshops. Brother Sriram, did you have something to add?
No, I was just about to say, probably, given that they jump into action, they may pick up an aspect which they feel they're really good at and help execute that, because that's something that they value, like you said, performing a job well. So if they feel they can do one aspect, they'll really volunteer for it and go for it.
Yeah, definitely. Great. And we have a second example. So the second scenario is that Shri has invited his friends over for Thanksgiving dinner. 1 week before the dinner, he comes down with a cold and contemplates what to do, as everyone he invited has confirmed their attendance. He reaches out to them in their group chat to let them know that he may not be able to prepare the full meal as originally planned, and seeks their input. So again, somebody under this energy type may jump into action again and may actually take on the role to host, or to offer their house, or to prepare the full meal, or they'll step in to see what Shri needs and will help in that capacity, whether it's helping to clean their house for them, helping with tasks, purchasing the food, and just being there as a constant support throughout the entire planning as well as the execution of the event. So the next energy type we'll go through is the physical energy type, and which is responsible for creating the physical body with its sensory system. So the main job of the physical energy is to protect the body, and this includes the emotions, the intellect, and discrimination aspects. The physical energy is primarily concerned with the consequences of an action and how it will affect the body, and usually prompts the question, what will happen if I say or do this? Or what is the body going to experience? The physical body and senses seek gratification, and physical energy types are usually comfortable with their bodies. They want to enjoy themselves and be as comfortable as possible, and they seek emotional and mental comfort as well as physical comfort. They don't like to face any situation that creates discomfort for the body or mind, and facing the reality of life is sometimes too painful for them, so they may ignore a difficult situation or pretend it doesn't exist. When they encounter a problem, they tend to avoid or deny it, or they may choose the path of least resistance to overcome it. More than any of the other three types, they hide from the reality of an unpleasant situation. So if something confrontational or unpleasant comes up, they may tend to try to change the subject to avoid the discussion. In terms of the way that they work, physical energy types work towards a goal if they enjoy the activity. But if they don't enjoy a task, they'll easily forget about it, which can be frustrating for, especially for emotional and discriminatory energy types who may just do the work themselves, especially the emotional one. When physical energy types take action, they usually take the easiest way, or the path of least resistance. And they are also very adaptable and adjust easily to changes in plans. In terms of communication styles, physical energy types tend to speak indirectly. So they don't want to hurt or shock anyone, including themselves. So they may tend to sugarcoat their communication, which may not always go as well as they intended, because they're using a roundabout way to communicate with lots of background information, in hopes that the other person may understand the request before even being asked, so they don't have to actually directly ask it. And they may use stories, teasing, and joking to communicate indirectly. Physical energy types will think about what will happen if they take a particular action, and will ask, what is the body going to experience? And they tend to live in the future. They are cheerful and optimistic, full of hope for better times. They do not schedule their time, but prefer to keep it unstructured and uncommitted. The primary sense for the physical energy type is touch, including taste, smell, tone of voice, as well as the tone of the words used. And physical energy is associated with the human value of nonviolence. So of the 4 human aspects, discrimination is probably the least important to them, and you'll see why when Sister Darshana goes through that energy type. So going back to our first scenario, in terms of planning the workshop, physical energy type might agree to help with tasks or workshops that they are most familiar with and comfortable, and will tend to shy away from those that they don't enjoy. Or they might wait for others to respond first before agreeing. And if everything is covered and all the bases are covered, they may happily just take a back seat and just enjoy the event rather than putting themselves in an uncomfortable situation or a situation where they're not familiar with. So we have a question. Would they likely prioritize workshops with icebreakers, with movement or interaction and/or physical material like sticky notes, markers, and props? Yeah, so so they would like to move, probably most likely like to move around, and take part in activities that involve probably less interaction. So I think, I would agree. Shri Ram and Darshana, please feel free to jump in if you have any other thoughts.
Yeah. So in the sense that they like to move about. They like their hobbies. They like some sort of, engagement of the senses in one sense, and the body. So they would like something that, a little bit of interaction in terms of physical interaction, moving around, dancing to something. You have an icebreaker that's get everyone up and, shaking and moving, that sort of stuff, like you've mentioned. So you're right. They enjoy that a lot. And they generally, like she mentioned, they're very good when they like something. Very, very good at what they do when they like it.
All right. So then going to scenario 2, in this situation, the physical energy type may offer to help prepare a dish if they are comfortable with cooking. Otherwise, they may wait for the others to respond, or if asked, they may not respond, which may be taken as confirmation that they will do it, and then may show up empty-handed. So could go one of 2 ways.
And one interesting aspect is they feel giving others an opportunity is a service. That's a very interesting trait of them.
Great. So I'll pass it over to Sister Darshana for the next energy type.
Thanks, guys. So before we go ahead, anyone resonate with the physical energy type? You can just pop it in the chat. Let us know, like, I think I might be this guy, or... Okay. Yes, so anyone think that they are a physical energy type? Thank you, Auntie. You know someone who fits in that category. You can also put in if you think that you know someone who fits in this category. And I think we'd encourage you to think of, like, people that you are usually around. People that are the closest to you, your family, your siblings, people you work with, your bosses, or if you're a boss, your employees, Just have to think about it and see if you can identify people like this. Now let's go to the intellectual energy type. So the most important question for an intellectual energy type is, how is this done? They like to think, right? So their thoughts are really important. And they also spend a lot of time thinking about stuff. These are the kind of people that if you give them a piece of information, they will stop and they will think very deeply about it before they say anything or make any decisions. Their typical traits: they want to learn more, they want to acquire more knowledge, but from a thought perspective, right? It's not about, I want to go and study more just because I like studying. It's more about, I want to understand this a bit more and I need more information. So therefore, I'm going to do what I need to do to have all the information at hand, and then I will make a decision. Right? So they're very detail-oriented people. They can look for like the tiniest of typos, or if if something on a ledge is not straight, they may be the ones who go and point it out. That is not sitting properly on the ledge, right? And they're also really good listeners, again, because they want to absorb and think about what's being said first. So these are some traits that you may find with people who are more intellectual energy based. Now, as with every energy type, it also comes with some difficulties. Now, the biggest issue for this energy type is they are not comfortable with uncertainty. They need to have all the facts before doing something, right? Anything that's a little gray area, they will want to figure out how to make that gray black or white. So that's a big difficulty or challenge, basically, that intellectual energy types have. And sometimes this can go a little bit too far because they spend a bit too much time in the thought process, so it doesn't move into action, right? And they get caught up in thoughts, so overthinkers at times. Now, they're also willing to give out facts, right? It has to be based on facts, but they may withhold personal judgment. So they would prefer to have it based on something tangible versus something that is experiential to them. They love to communicate and engage in small groups when they are exchanging their information. So they are more likely to be slightly intellectual, perhaps. Introverted in some ways. And being out in the open and talking to many people at one time may not really be their cup of tea. So they're more here for the deep talks, not the small talks. Yeah. And what is the sense that they use is their ears. They absorb through listening or taking in information. So that's how they that's the sense that they use. And what they value the most is truth. They want to know the truth. They are seekers of truth. That's why they try to learn as much as they can. Okay. So let's see a couple of examples, again, based on the previous two scenarios. So for Padma looking for someone to help with the workshop, an intellectual energy type might do this. They may immediately generate okay, this is the things that need to be done, right? And here is your timeline, guys. So they do all the back-end work and they have it in a spreadsheet. That's probably the intellectual energy type. They are very detail-oriented, if you remember. They may also start to research the topic and try to familiarize themselves as much as possible. These are the guys or the girls who will start to ask questions, and they will ask anything and everything so that they have enough facts. They will also start to learn from the experience of others as they observe, right? Because they're absorbing. That's the kind of thing that they like to do. And with the second example of the Thanksgiving dinner, the intellectual energy type would probably be the one who asks more questions and ask about details. If it's a Thanksgiving dinner, what do I bring? Should I bring dessert? Should I bring this? How many people are coming? And then it could also be about the nature of illness of the host itself, right? Can I do something? Is this the best time to meet? If you're sick, what if we all get sick, right? So that's the kind of person the intellectual energy type might be. At the same time, they would also try to really help using the facts and the information that they have gathered. So who identifies as an intellectual energy? Please share your thoughts in the chat. Come on, guys. I'm sure someone is intellectual or leans intellectual. Well, I can tell you that I feel I'm this energy type. Shriram, I don't know. I mean, sometimes people might think you're a different energy type, but when I'm looking at all this, I feel like I'm somewhat detail oriented, and I'm someone who like really fusses about timelines and these are the things that need to be done. I need to know everything before I do something. So Shriram's nodding his head, so I think he knows. And you know, it's interesting because I may have pegged myself for emotional before this, right? So it's very strange. So for someone who identifies as intellectual, I often feel I'm all three. Yes, sometimes it might be difficult to identify it, but I would encourage you just to wait until we finish the discriminating and then see if you can identify something that feels like it's standing out a little bit more than the rest, right? And we'll help you with that as well. So when we talk about like, you know, the secondary and tertiary and quaternary energy types, for the intellectual, if I'm sitting at the intellectual space, my secondary would be the physical, right? And is that right, Shriram? It's physical, right? Oh no, the other side, discriminating. Yes, sorry, I'm looking at the chart the other way around here. So as a intellectual, the secondary for me is discriminating. The tertiary is physical, and the one that I may not connect to is actually emotional. So that's very interesting for me because I thought I was emotional, and that's now on the opposite end for me. Yeah. So anyone know anyone who is an intellectual energy type? You are welcome to share that in the chat as well. Shriram, you wanted to say something? Go ahead.
No, I know a lot of people in and around me.
Yeah.
They're not just going to talk flippantly, not or quickly off their subjective experience alone is not good enough. They need to really kind of know the ins and outs before they even feel comfortable. Kind of introvertish, like you said.
Yeah.
So yeah, no.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Once we get to know like all of these energy types.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
Right. I'm just realizing that I think depending on the situation and where I am, I might be a different energy type. Like at work, when you know something needs to happen and I'm getting an ask from a different team, I think that's where I pause and kind of ask more questions to understand a bit more before committing for the team. So I do see that I think I'm different with different people, like a family or close people I know who I feel safe with versus a different group.
It's completely fair. We'll help, like what Darshana was saying at the end. There's some nuance to this because all these four energies exist in us, so like Darshana said at the very beginning. So there's some nuance to this in terms of how you help figure it out. Especially when you're pressed, when the hot button is pressed, how do we respond? That may be a clue as well. But like you're saying, it seems like we can relate to all of it at different points in time. But we'll help you guys with some cheat sheets along the way.
Yeah.
Saram, I feel like different energy types get brought out in me. I'm now realizing based on who I'm around, and I feel like I tend to match whatever the other person I'm talking to is exhibiting. Whereas when I'm talking to someone who is giving me more of an emotional energy type and talking more about how they're feeling about a situation, I tend to be asking more of those types of questions and responding in a similar way.
That's a lovely sharing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think like you might be on to something, and we'll talk about that towards the end. Shriram's smiling as well because he's like, okay, yes, we know this. So anyone else want to share something before we move on to the discriminating energy type?
I think we may have more discussions after the next one.
Okay, so let's go ahead to the discriminating type. So the discriminating energy type, the question that is always on their mind is, why should I make this decision? Like, why is this important, right? So this energy type focuses a lot about the consequence, something that happens after, basically. And here's how we look at it. They're motivated by words because they want to make judgments and they need to decide what to do. Don't take judgment in the wrong way. It's not about being negative or positive. It's essentially just trying to decide what to do with all this information, right? Their typical traits is they think about how to apply the information, and they connect thoughts and actions, which becomes very word focused. They're very particular about the application of rules, the code of conduct, doing things the right way, morality. So they have a lot of they're most likely people who also have a lot of principles, right? Like, I can do this, I will not do that. This is wrong, this is right. This is not the way to do this. This is the way to do this. So they may be very black and white people, right? So some of the difficulties is sometimes there is an overuse of verbal judgment. So it can also be verbal judgment of other people, what people say to them, but it's also basically the words that they use. They always judge people on how they apply knowledge. So this is these are basically your, the ones who sit there and go okay, silently judging behind the scenes kind of people, right? And their greatest fear, what they're very afraid of, is mental separation. So essentially here, if they're not able to make decisions, it can paralyze them, right? Their communication style is very direct, very clear, and they are very decisive. There's a lot of logic, there's less emotion involved, right? So again, they are people who would rely on facts, but they're more concerned about what happens next. Their sense here is the voice, so sound, and what they really focus on as a value is right conduct. Now, we all know people like this. We may be people like this. And again, one is not better or lesser than the other. There are a lot of good qualities when it comes to discriminating energy because they can see things pretty clearly and they will understand how to make good decisions as well, right? So here, quick check. Anyone is a discriminating energy type? And the word judgment, I know, throws off a lot of people because it comes off as, not so great. But I encourage you to think about judgment as more of a process where you are trying to make decisions, right? So you can write in the chat if anyone resonates with a discriminating energy type, or if you know someone like this. It's very highly likely, a lot of those people who are our bosses, they may fall into these categories sometime. You might also know colleagues like this or friends like this. So when we look at the two scenarios, when we're looking at the planning a workshop, the discriminating energy type might probably ask for more guidance and more structure instead of having everybody just tell me what your suggestions are, right? So the structure is important for them. And they would probably see that, yes, there is need for a bit of structure because we are planning a workshop and it's going to happen over the weekend. We have a little bit of time. This cannot be an open discussion, right? And they will tell you upright and very directly. They will also really focus on the work details because they need to know what they need to do. Because again, their focus is what's going to happen next, right? What is it that I really need to do so that I can complete this the right way and there will be no hiccups, right? So they will be the people, if they're on your team, they're the ones who will look at your plan and they will start to nitpick everything. And I know someone like that, but I'm not going to say who at this stage, right? And many of you may know this person as well. Okay. So this is when it comes to workshops. Well, what about a Thanksgiving dinner? So let's go back to this. This person is going to tell you straight up, no, if you're sick, you should not be hosting a dinner. What are you doing, right? That would be their judgment. They're not going to mince their words. They will just tell you exactly what they think. Now, we all have friends like this, and it's good that we have friends like this. I mean, I know brothers may have specific friends that just tell you up front, what they think. Similarly, I know a lot of girls have good friends in circles of like women, and they would probably be the ones that you call when you need a super honest answer about something, right? So one more check here. If anyone identifies as this, okay. If you don't want to say, that's also okay. Don't worry about it. So let's move on to really understand. Okay, so we've got these 4 energy types. So let's talk about these 4 energy types and why is it placed this way? What's the purpose of it being in this clove like a circle? So essentially, this mirrors the order of creation, the process that begins from birth until we die, right? So everything starts from emotional, which is a movement. Something has to be triggered so that we can feel. And then it moves to physical because it encourages us to act, right? To perform something. Now, when we are ready to do that, our intellect comes in because we start to think about, okay, what is it that we are connecting to right now? What's this information telling me? And finally, there is a decision that is being made at the end. So similarly, a little story I can tell you is when we are born, for example, the uterus contracts and we move down the birth canal, and that is emotion. So emotion can also be E-motion, right? So it is energy in motion, basically. And then the physical body is born. And this is basically experienced through our senses when we are born, and it is recorded in our intellect. Okay, so that's the thought process. And then we judge whether this experience is good or bad using discriminative energy. Everything that happens to us follows this sequence. If you think about all the experiences you've had, it's a similar process, right? So I'm going to pause here because we've got a question. Could you tell us which other type does discriminating energy connect with? I'm going to let Sriram take this question because he is our in-house expert on all things human nature.
No, I mean, so which other energy do they connect with, right? So if you look at what she's mentioned and you look at this picture here, right? So discriminating energy is, you see to the left when you're looking at the screen. What is to the immediate left of it is their secondary energy that they access, which is the emotional aspect. So you see that discriminating people, also like what Darshana said, judge or evaluate what someone is saying. And how do they evaluate it? Oftentimes is also they see what sort of feeling is it creating in around in the room. Is this fair? Is this right or wrong? So they are also looking at the world like the emotional outer person, emotional energy type. But the point is they are slightly different from the emotional energy type, but they do understand the emotional energy type pretty well. Okay, so when you ask me which do they connect to, they connect or understand the emotional type pretty well. So that is one aspect. And who do they least connect to? The physical type. Okay, so it's very interesting what she mentioned here. Okay, each energy type guards their secondary aspect closely. So if you're talking about discriminated right now, they guard their emotions, whereas they happily and freely use their tertiary aspect, which is intellectual. Look at discrimination. To the left is your secondary energy type, emotion. They guard it carefully. The third type, which is the intellectual, they use freely. That's why if you go back to Darshana's slide on discriminatory, she said less emotion, freely use logic. That means they can freely use their tertiary energy type, but they'll closely guard their secondary energy type. So that is why discriminating people will closely guard what they're feeling. They won't necessarily showcase it very obviously, but it'll come out in the way they directly communicate. But the point is they won't showcase it, but they'll freely use their intellect or thoughts to kind of, like she said right now in this example, break down a task, create structure and stuff of that sort. So each energy type guards the secondary energy that it has and basically freely uses or objectively uses, let me use the right word, objectively uses the tertiary energy. And they overuse their primary energy. The discriminating type is always constantly judging or evaluating. So they overuse it. Each energy type overuses their energy type because that's their ego identity, like she said. That is where they derive value for themselves or their self-image.
I was just changing the slide because it's basically connected to what you're saying. So here you can see the primary is the one we use the most. So if we were focusing on discriminating, that would be that. And then there's one that is left, which is emotional, is the one that we need to accomplish the task. And then the one to the right is the type that we see objectively. And the one right opposite us is the one that is least, right?
Discrimination like Viveka too, right? So that's the thing. So the thing is, discriminating folks because they are, they're seeing, they don't necessarily have all the facts all the time. When their discriminating energy is purified or perfect or balanced, then it becomes Viveka. But just because they're judging and evaluating all the time, it doesn't mean that they are always right, because they judge rather quickly or evaluate rather quickly. And what do they see? They use emotions or what is happening around them to quickly evaluate or judge. So it's not always the highest form of discrimination will be Viveka, but oftentimes the judgment can be relatively quick or the evaluation can be relatively quick based on what emotions that they're seeing outside or in the room that they are in experiencing. If others are experiencing something, they immediately judge this person is probably not doing the right thing when they're creating such an experience for others. They may not have all the facts. Oftentimes they will not have all the facts. But they will have already evaluated and judged oftentimes.
Thank you so much, Sriram. So those are the 4 different energy types. And now I'm going to pass it on to Jhananiee to take us through a reflection.
Thank you. So we've been taking you through the different energy types and asking you to reflect on the information and see how it resonates with you. So now we wanted to give you an opportunity to do that, and take some time to actually go through the energy type, the different energy types, and see, and really internalize it and see where you fit most or best in this clove, to see where, like at this point and where you are is your primary energy type. You can refer to the PDF that was shared, which has more details of the information. And if you want, we can go back to that previous slide about the way that the order is, to help guide you. But if you do have any questions, or if you do know for sure which one is your primary and you need some help with orienting the other energy types, feel free to unmute or put it in the chat, and we can help with guiding that. Like we said, like this is just with the information that we provided, this may not be fully accurate. You may need to take more time to go through all of the examples again, and all of the information, and really internalize the information. But from what we've shared and what you've seen through the examples, this would give you an opportunity to see. And if you'd like to share, please do feel free to share your thoughts. I will have to say, like, for me, I did struggle a lot, and I think really up until yesterday too, like I was really going back and forth between my primary energy type. But I think I probably resonate more with the emotional energy type, because of it's a flaw that I will accept, that I am very reactive, and when a situation happens, I do tend to try to find the solution right away and then evaluate later on. But I'm working on it. So we'll see. So
as we all are, trust me.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So I see a few comments here. All right. So we'll give you a couple of minutes to think about this and to share your thoughts.
If you guys want a quick summary, just throw your hands up. We'll give you a 90-second summary that will encapsulate it if you guys want one, because you've heard all 4. And we've thrown a fair bit at you.
All right. So Sis has said intellectual. I will agree with that. Just from our conversations. So then if you're intellectual, your secondary, I'm going to have to reorient myself, would be discriminating. Your tertiary would be physical, and the least, or the fourth quaternary one is emotional. Right. So we have a question. We may touch upon it towards the end of our session, but can you elaborate on how knowing your energies helps us, or what are our goals after that knowledge?
Super.
Yeah.
That's the entire point of this whole exercise.
Yes.
That we get to.
Yes.
So
You're one step ahead of us.
exactly.
All right. Sister said that she is emotional. All right. So secondary would be physical, tertiary would be discriminating, and quaternary would be intellectual. All right. I know we're probably pressed for time, so we will give you more time to reflect on it personally and see what most resonates with you. Brother Sriram has said physical. I see some smiling faces, so I'm not sure what that means, but yes, we will move on, but keep thinking about it, and we'll continue with the next part. So we've asked you to reflect on your own selves. What do you think? What about Swami? What energy type do you think he most resonates with, or which one most resembles him? Deep question, I know.
What do you guys think? Just there's no right answer here. Just you can have a crack at it. And this is just a small group, incidentally, today, but this makes for perfect, tight-knit conversations.
Anyone got any thoughts?
Maybe intellectual, since its value is truth, and his name is Satya. Ooh, I like that. I like that.
Nice.
Intellectual justification. She's collected the information, and here she puts it together and renders an answer.
Well
Logic.
done.
I'll give you for logic.
He also says intellectual.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have any other answers?
He's beyond all energies. He true? He's beyond all energies. Interesting.
Very nice. Well, what do you guys think, Jhananiee and Sriram?
I'll let Jhananiee.
Yeah, Jhananiee, go ahead. What do you think?
I mean, I think with my own reflection, I think since I've gone back and forth between so many of them, my initial thought when I was going through this is, I think Swami is also probably in the same boat. Not that he's conflicted or that he's unable to figure out which energy type is. I think it just, he resonates with all of them, or that he's able to implement the ones that he needs at the correct moment in time, but that it's not specifically one. Obviously, like the intellectual definitely helps, or is more very prevalent, but that was just my thought on it the first time when I first initially went through this.
Yeah. And you know what? A statement which I think leads really well into what we're going to go into next. It's really hard because with all the negatives, he can't think of negatives with Swami. And that's true. It's really hard. So Jhananiee is going to introduce to you a different way of thinking, or like an elevated way of thinking about the energies. So do bear in mind that this is the same energies that we're still talking about.
Exactly.
So the four energy types have evolved from these qualities of God. So if you see here, the omniscient or all-knowing, the omnipotent, all-powerful, unconditional, all-loving, and the omnipresent, all-seeing. All of these characters are characteristics of God, are intertwined with the different energy types, and we're able to we try to put in at least simplistic terms to help you understand the process, or the way in which to understand the different energy types a little bit better. We're truly a mirror and an aspect of God, and we also have these 4 energies in ourselves, and we have to understand that we have one energy type intrinsically, which we've identified, and the energies are interdependent and trying to seek a balance. So it's not a matter of, it's the one focus and that all of the others are less important, but that we need to figure out that balance and how to incorporate the different energy types, and the different ways in which we understand the different energies, so that we were able to incorporate those into our lives. The 4 energy types come from the characteristics of God, but we are faced with additional obstacles in the form of the vice, the fear, and the negative conditions. And so that is where we differ from Swami, in the sense that, Swami is above all of this. Like he's able to be able to distinguish between all of these aspects, but we are still working on that. So, for example, if you are the emotional type, some of your vices might be pride or aloneness or self-pity, and so these characteristics may fall in here and there, but really trying to overcome those and really trying to understand that we are, where we need to work on that and get into the aspect of understanding all of the 4 energy types is really what our purpose is, and what our ultimate goal is, to understand that higher self. I'll open it up to Darshana and Sriram to also elaborate too.
Yeah.
Because it is a lot of information, and I just want to make sure that we do justice to this slide.
Yeah, I'll break this down logically, but I'll first let Darshana go if she has something to say, and then you guys, this seems like a lot of information, like Jhananiee was saying, but there's a method to the madness. There's a logic to it. You can almost deduce every word in each of these columns if we understand the way this operates. Because all of these are an operating system. So once you understand the basics of it, you can deduce this whole table. But I'll let Darshana chime in before I go.
No, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and do your thing here.
Okay, yeah. So like you guys can see, all the 4 characteristics of God, we always heard this: omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, and we've just thought these are just mere words. And you can see that today we have seen that these words translate themselves into energies. And so the highest potential of each energy is the character of God that you see above. So that's hopefully clear to all of you. When our intellectual energy becomes extremely pure and becomes the highest version of itself, it becomes omniscient. Same way for discriminating, emotional, physical, like Jhananiee just said. Now, we also learned, say, let's take each energy type and understand the column, right? Like now we know for the intellectual energy type, they're constantly wanting to know more about a topic, or they're constantly in search of what is the fact, what is the truth here. That is how they kind of go about it. That's why the value is truth. So because they're constantly searching for, do I truly understand something before I open my mouth? So that is why the value naturally that they're after is truth. Okay? And once they understand the truth, the spiritual quality that naturally flowers in them as is jnana, or wisdom. So once you have understood the truth, or you have understood that you've gathered enough information to know that, hey, I must focus on my spiritual journey, they naturally showcase faith. Okay, because they're convinced, they have gathered enough information from whatever sources to now be convinced on this is the truth or this is the fact to follow. So therefore they're able to manifest faith, okay, as a result of conviction, having gathered enough data points in their heads to know, okay, this is the fact, I will go. Now the thing is, because why is the wise greed? Why? Because they're constantly hoarding. They want to know more and more and more and more. That is the nature of the intellectual energy. It wants to know more and more. Analysis paralysis happens to intellectual energies often because they're like, what if I don't know? That's why their fear is unknown. What if I don't know something? What if I don't know something? So they keep hoarding. They keep hoarding everything. They keep, kind of putting together information, hoarding a lot of things, so that they have the hoarder mentality. That's why the vice is greed. When it's not elevated to its purified form, the vice is they keep hoarding. So for example, intellectual person may know, oh, money is required for all of these aspects. So what if money is needed for something that may not be there? So I have to have more. You see what I mean? So this is why their vice is greed, whereas their fear is the unknown, because they're constantly wanting to know all pieces of the puzzle. So unless when they don't know something, they're scared or worried or scared to act. And that's why the greatest negative condition for them to be in is ignorance. Oh my God, how can I be ignorant of something? That's what fears the heck out of them. Now let's go to the discriminating, okay? Discriminating, like you guys said, they want to why do they evaluate and judge? So that they do what is right, or they evaluate everyone around them as well as quickly themselves in the situation to figure out what is the right thing to do. So you can see the value naturally deduced is right conduct. Okay, and often they give a lot of emphasis to words like Darshana mentioned, how someone is saying, what someone is saying, right? Next thing is, therefore, their spiritual quality is right conduct. You're okay? Why? And you can see they want to do the right thing. They want to do the right thing and be fair and just to all. Therefore, their virtue is equality. Now, jealousy is an interesting thing that is a vice here. Why is, if they are elevated, the quality is elevated, you will see dharma and equality. But in its unpurified form, why is jealousy? Is because they're constantly evaluating, oh, this person is smarter and says the right thing, or better than this. This person is good at this, whereas I don't have it. They have the ability to draw contrasts. Because they have the ability to so quickly evaluate and draw contrasts or judge, they feel either someone has some more of something or I may have some less of it. They develop that feeling rather easily that there is a contrast between, there's a change or difference between us. So that natural, as a result of constantly evaluating and judging, they develop the quality of vice naturally in them, if it's not purified, if the energy is not purified. And then what do they fear from? Separateness. What does that mean? That means for example, they are not scared of physical separation. Like, for example, this is the typical quality of a discriminating person, is that of, if they don't feel aligned with someone or something, they really fear that. They really fear this lack of alignment, which is what is creating separation. That they really fear, and it bothers them. And because they are constantly quickly evaluating and judging, prejudice is a negative condition that oftentimes comes. So you can see why jealousy and prejudice, when this energy type is not purified, develops very naturally in it. So they're constantly worried about disalignment. That is what the separateness means. And each of these energy types are typically characterized by one relationship that you can easily kind of emblematically place this energy type on. For example, the intellectual is very much like your friend or a peer energy type. They constantly listen, they constantly hear, and try to figure everything out by constantly listening to you. That's why friends are good listeners oftentimes. This discriminating energy type is like your spouse. Your spouse will be honest with you on what is right, what is wrong. Within the closed doors and four walls, your spouse is your best critic, or your worst critic, and your best supporter. But he or she will always point out what is right and wrong to you, very interestingly. So oftentimes this discriminating energy, the relationship that brings it out very typically is typically like a spouse. Then you go to the emotional, and we're going to wrap up here now in a minute. Emotional folks, they're constantly acting, said Jhananiee at the very beginning. If you guys remember, they're constantly acting based on what they're feeling. So what they want to feel is peaceful. That is why they act. I must do the job and get the job done so that I feel peaceful. But poor folks, they put so much emphasis on acting that they can never be peaceful. Even when they're not doing something, the thoughts are racing. They overuse their primary energy. So they're working even when they're not working. You know what I mean? But why are they working? They want to experience peace. That is the value that they want to experience. So that is why their spiritual quality is action. And when purified, it is right action, karma, good karmas they will perform, because they'll immediately jump in and help. Like what Jhananee's thing was, they will immediately, if the person host is not feeling well, they will jump in and act and help. That is why when it's purified, their virtue is compassion, because they have a lot of compassion, because they feel strongly for what is going on, and so forth. They have a lot of compassion. But you see, they if you remember, she said they take a lot of pride in their work. That is why the vice is pride, because they generally are good at what they do, because they try to perfect it, and therefore sense of pride develops in them, because they know they're good at it, and that is their signature thing that they bring to the table. So they naturally develop this vice of pride. What do they fear? They fear being alone. They fear this lack of connection. If their loved ones are not nearby, they feel alone. They fear this physical presence, and that emotional presence is required. Whereas, for example, I just told you, discriminating folks, even if there's the person that they love is far away, they just want alignment. If the husband or wife, for example, or the relationship is not aligned, that they fear. But these people fear loneliness, or being separate, or being alone. That they fear. And that is why the negative condition is self-pity, because they're overwhelmed by their emotions. They don't know what to do. They feel sorry for themselves, because they are unable to manage when they feel so strongly overwhelmed by emotions. So finally, here at the physical level, you see, these guys don't want to hurt themselves or anyone. That's why, if you remember what Jhananiee said, they sugarcoat, they use indirect ways, they joke, they do everything. Why? They don't want to hurt themselves or others, right? And importantly, because they want to not hurt anyone, they naturally take to the easiest path. Do you remember Jhananiee said they get the job done through the easiest path. What does Swami say is the easiest way to reach God? Bhakti. And they take to bhakti. Easiest path of least resistance they adopt. They are actually optimistic people. Even through when craziness is happening, they are hopeful. But the problem is, because they use their senses a lot, and the senses always bring in input, they are interested, or they desire things a lot. They enjoy everything, so they often desire everything. So that's why desire is a natural vice that comes. The fear that they have is a lack of, because they enjoy what they do and become good at what they enjoy doing. If they have nothing to do, or no hobby, no sense of purpose, they become lost. That they are very fearful of that condition. And that is why, when they have nothing to really focus on, or nothing to work towards that they enjoy, they have no sense of self-worth. But all of us are trying to balance all these four energies and harmonize it. Only when all of these four energies within us are harmonized is when truly we become Swami. That is why, you remember in Brother Alex said last time around, he said relationships are for three reasons. One is to show that there is to rub the ego. Each of us have the predominant energy type, and we'll often meet people of the opposite energy types that will rub our ego in one sense, and our ego identity. Second thing the relationships often do is they help us expand. We begin to enjoy, sometimes even I come across someone who's very different from me. Slowly when you spend time with them, it helps you expand and understand, oh, they also bring something to the table. You start enjoying the diversity, and you enjoy the different strengths that people bring with their energy types to the table, and you realize you need it. So it helps you expand. So that's the other thing. And importantly, you will often meet people of the opposite energy types or differing energy types, because balance is required. That's why you say opposites attract. Often we say, why? Because we are seeking unknowingly balance and harmony between all of these energy types within ourselves. So that's why relationships come to teach us that is that energy we need to acquire to create balance within ourselves. Whether you're married or not, whether you have relationships of any sort or not, all of us have some relationships, parents, husband, wife, or friends. All of these equations are here to teach us to develop this balance within ourselves, of all these four energies that exist within ourselves. Don't overuse your ego energy type which you identify with, and try to harmonize and blend in the other energies that are there within you that you need to access and improve. And all your relationships, especially the difficult ones, are here to teach you that. And I'll let Darshana finish up.
Thank you so much, Shriram. Shriram is really passionate about this subject and he knows quite a bit of it. And we really loved his explanation of how the spectrum of where this energy can go both ways was for us. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I hope that helped all of you to also gain a little bit more knowledge. So when we just, as a summary, Shriram ended on the right note, which was about harmony, right? We can see here that the harmony circle essentially means, yes, it may start from thoughts, and then it goes to words and deeds and consequences. And similarly, the intellect is connected with the thoughts, discriminating energy with the words, emotional energy with deeds, and physical energy with consequences. Now, the highest potential of intellectual energy will lead us to the truth that only love exists, and that love all is the ultimate truth, basically, that is encapsulated by our loving thoughts. And the highest potential of discriminating energy aims to understand what is important and what is going to serve everyone. So that kind of corresponds with serve all. When we talk about the highest potential of emotional energy, basically they jump in and they want to act and help. And this gets us to that space of help ever, right? That's what Swami says as well. And finally, when we talk about the highest potential of physical energy, this is the energy that really wants to make sure no one is hurt, everyone is happy, everybody feels welcome. And that's where hurt never also is. So when we align and harmonize all of these four energies, just like Swami, we will also be able to embody love all, serve all, help ever, hurt never. Okay? So we really hope that this presentation was helpful for all of you. We must add here that this is barely touching the surface. It's just scratching the surface of what this is. And if you would like to learn more, you can also look for this book called Love of Conscience. I'm just going to show this to you first. This is the reference. Take a screenshot, go ahead. The book is called Love of Conscience, The Four Aspects of Human Nature. It's very in-depth and it will take a lot of time. Shriram himself shared that it took him years before he could understand this. And we also want to leave you with these reflection questions. So this is another thing that I'd like to encourage you to take a snapshot of, just for you to think about as a post-session exercise. So please go ahead and take those screenshots. And before we end, I just want to also check, there was one important question that had come earlier, which was about why is it so important for us to know our energy types? Like, what are we going to do with this information? And I feel like the explanations that had come through Sriram and also the Harmony Circle answers this quite directly. It is important for us to understand ourselves first so that we can then understand how we interact with the world around us. And we also understand others and how actually we all come from the same space. The energies are all the same. It's not one is better than the other. And it will help us also to find harmony, not just within ourselves, but with everyone else. And I'd just like to ask Jhananiee to add some of her closing thoughts before we pass it on to Sriram and Padmashri.
Thank you for joining. I think, as Sister Darshana mentioned, like we wanted to condense as much information as possible in this 90 minutes for you to be able to take it back, reflect on it, and see how you will be able to put these into practice in your own lives, or at least be a little bit more conscious of it going forwards. But feel free to take a look at the book and the resources and really take that time to understand it. Of course, Brother Sriram is a great resource, so pick his brain if you're able to. We've had hours of conversations with him, and I'm still learning. So we really hope that you enjoyed the session and were able to take something away from this. And thank you for joining today, Sairam.
Thank you so much, and Sairam.
Okay, so guys, we just have quick announcements here. So, like, one of the important things that that we spoke about this entire session, is about energy. And why this is a fascinating topic is because Swami says clove is conscious love, right? So once we understand how this operates, we start to understand everyone, including ourselves, and therefore we can begin to adjust. Sometimes we find it unbearable. Now you see why people are the way they are, communicate the way they are. Why are we the way we are? Why have we been programmed the way we are? Why can't we help ourselves? We kind of this gives us a space for empathy and compassion for ourselves and others, and also gives us an idea of what is the highest potential within ourselves, right? So, and given that now we know it, how do you purify my primary energy? How do I access my secondary and tertiary energies to purify my primary energy? How do I access that fourth energy which seems distant to me, which will help me balance? All my relationships around me, are they bringing those aspects in? Are they helping me along the way? Am I just not seeing it? You can see that everyone has been put into our lives. We all have been put into each other's lives to help each other. We are blessed because Swami wants us to evolve and become harmonious within ourselves and as a family and as a society and as a world. And these energies will help us truly.
With that, I think we'll wrap up today's session. Thank you for staying on over time and listening to us. We'll just wrap up. Thank you, Darshana and Jhananiee, and of course, Sriram, for helping put together this wonderful session. And thank you, Swami, for helping us go a little bit deeper into understanding our own self. I know we do a lot of things, for professional growth and certification and other things, but really to understand ourselves, spending that amount of time to actually go deeper, understand what exactly makes the energy within us, and the way our personalities are. I think these are wonderful tools that Swami has given us. With that, we'll just close with Samasta Loka. Om Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.